The movie begins with a boy coming home from school to find his dad hanging himself in the living room. And that's the opening scene. Meanwhile, a teacher walks through the halls where he gets shanked by his own student. Washing himself off, the teacher has revenge on his mind. Later, the class is on a bus taking a field trip somewhere. A boy falls asleep on the bus, but he's jolted awake to find out that all of his classmates are also asleep on the bus. Finding this unusual, he stumbles to the back of the bus. But the evil bus driver lady sees him, and she's wearing a mask for some reason. She walks up to the boy and slashes him across the eye. Later, the boy wakes up in a room. He notices he has a device strapped to his neck, and all of his classmates are also in the room with him, along with the teacher that got stabbed from earlier. The teacher shows them a video explaining that they all have to fight on a special island as punishment for being bad children. Midway through the video, the teacher crashes out and throws a knife right at this girl's head, killing her immediately. While the whole class starts freaking out, the teacher gives an example of what will happen if the students misbehave while on the island. Students each grab their bags one by one and run out into the island. On his way there, the boy discovers a girl that needs help. He helps her tend to her wounds, and they discover that they each been given individual weapons. Her weapon is a pair of binoculars, and his is a potlet. The two decide to stick together no matter what happens on the island. Later on the island, classmates discover that there's no way they're going to make it off of the island alive, deciding to kill themselves to die by their own terms. The next day, the boy and the girl are attacked by their classmate whose weapon is a hatchet. They get into a fight, but eventually the boy kills his classmate by launching the hatchet into his head. Immediately after that, another classmate threatens them with a gun, but they're saved by a boy who's not in their class. The boy decides to spare the two's lives, but meanwhile, they look up to the hill where they find a guy completely unloading a mag on these two girls. The three decide their best bet is to stick together. The boy who's not in their class brings them to his hideout where he gives the girl medicine. When asked how he knows how to make medicine, the boy tells him that his dad is a doctor. Later that night, the boy explains why he's fighting on the island even though he's not in the class. He tells the two that he had a fight on this island before and that him and his girlfriend were the last two standing. At the end, the two decide to kill each other, so neither one of them would die alone. However, the girl was shot at the last second, leaving the boy to win by himself. He says that he was forced to come back to the island to shake things up, and he's vowed to never die on the island. However, they're soon attacked by the guy from earlier with the machine guns. He blows up their house, but they are able to escape him for now. Later, the boy wakes up on a hospital bed in a lighthouse where he meets a group of girls who are helping the injured rather than killing their classmates. One girl attempts to poison the boy, but they end up getting into a fight and all die, apart from one girl who jumps off the lighthouse and commits suicide. Meanwhile, the girl is confronted in the rain, but just as she is about to get shot by her classmate, the teacher appears and hands her an umbrella before leaving. At the same time, a separate group of boys have figured out how to hack into the island security and manage to turn off the students' monitoring systems. However, they are shortly gunned down by the kid with a machine gun. The group of three show up to the scene. At this point, they and the kid with the machine gun are the only students remaining on the island. The exchange student and the machine gun boy get into a final battle. The exchange student ends up winning, leaving him and his two friends as the final three students remaining on the island. The next morning, the exchange student tells the two that he is done sparing their lives and that he wants to win the game by himself. He fires his pistol at the two and heads to the teacher's compound as the last surviving student. The teacher thinks that the boy has won the battle royale. However, the boy and girl appear in the doorway, having faked their deaths. The teacher reveals that he wanted the girl to win all along and proceeds to get shot. The three leave the island on a boat. On their way back, the exchange student dies, having saved his friends' lives, where they head back to Japan and live happily ever after.
The theme of competition in the film Battle Royale is intense, serving as a critical commentary on society and human nature. First point being survival of the fittest. The central premise of the film revolves around a group of students who are forced to compete against each other in a deadly game where only one can survive. This brutal competition highlights the primal instincts for survival, pushing characters to their limits and forcing them to confront their moral boundaries. The competition among the students can be seen as a metaphor for the cutthroat nature of modern society, where individuals often feel pressured to outdo one another in various aspects of life, such as academics, careers, and social status. The film critiques how societal expectations can lead to extreme behaviors and alienation. As the competition unfolds, alliances form and dissolve, showcasing the complexities of human relationships under pressure. Characters must navigate their friendships while also considering their own survival, leading to moments of betrayal and moral dilemmas. Our main characters form an alliance. However, deep down they know that only one of them can survive. The last part of competition is psychological impact. The intense competition affects the mental state of the characters, revealing how extreme situations can alter one's behavior and decision-making. The film dives into the psychological toll of being pitted against peers emphasizing the emotional and ethical struggles faced by the participants. There were people who embraced the competition and went on a killing spree, like the Uzi Man, and there were those who gave up and fell victim to the others, feeding the bloodlust of those who chose to kill.
Conformity dictates the lives of Japanese people because of its presence in Japan's day-to-day life. For example, conformity is shown within Japanese schools. Students have to dress in a way that matches the school's criteria of what is deemed acceptable. Conformity originally came to Japan as a way to survive against Japan's harsh environment. Strong social groups were made to ensure their survival against these dangers. Within these social groups, rules were made collectively and were only applied if there was unanimous approval. The strong social pressures within these groups are the reason why decisions were made. Thinking as a collective mind was a norm instead of proposing individualistic, abstract ideas that would go against the group's rules and expectations. Conformity is shown prominently throughout the film Battle Royale. Examples of conformity in Battle Royale are obeying the game's rules, adopting a survival-based mindset, alliances based on pre-existing social groups, accepting the situation, and fear of the government's authority. The students initially follow the rules of the program, wearing tracking collars and attending the briefing without resistance after seeing not one but two of their classmates die to set an example. This demonstrates their conformity to the authority of the government and fear of punishment. Several students conform to the kill or be killed mentality, attacking their classmates to increase their chances of survival. Most students become relentless killers, embodying brutal expectations of the program. Some students form alliances based on pre-existing social groups or friendships from their school life. These alliances reflect the tendency to conform to familiar relationships rather than questioning their effectiveness in such dire circumstances. Many students accept the situation as inevitable and focus on surviving instead of resisting or escaping. This passive conformity highlights the psychological aspect of the program's oppressive design. The teacher represents the government's control over the students. His authoritative presence and the brutal enforcement of rules discourages rebellion, further pushing the students towards conformity.
The film explores the theme of authority through the dynamics between students and adults, as well as amongst the students themselves. Authority is respected in Japan, even when an individual disagrees with the person in charge, as their high-ranking position is taken as proof of their greater expertise and experience. In the 90s and 80s in Japan, several sensationalized news stories about rebellious and even violent teens emerged in the media. This painted a picture of a whole generation no longer respecting authority. While the scale of the problem was massively overblown, authorities started coming down hard on youth crime, which gave the appearance of an epidemic of youth defying authority. Teens who skipped school or stayed cooped up in their bedrooms were seen as rebellious, as they refused to adopt the roles society expected of them. Battle Royale reflects this moral panic as the students are shown disrespecting authority, even going so far as to stab their teacher, Kitano. The authoritarian government of the film seeks to remedy rampant youth rebellion through fear and violence. This is a dramatic retelling of the government crackdowns on crime amongst teenagers, which peaked in the 1980s and 90s. Respect towards authority amongst high schoolers is highly valued in Japanese society. Students are seen as being prepared for the strict rules and the respect culture of Japanese workplace, which they'll come to experience as adults. Chujei Kankei describes the dynamic between two people of different social ranks. This vertical hierarchy sees the person of a lower status labeled kohai, while their superiors deemed their senpai. This relationship has been observed amongst secondary school students, as juniors are expected to follow and respect seniors, who are in a position of authority over the younger students. This dynamic carries over to the workplace, as workers are subordinate to their higher-ups, with managers having immense control over their employees' lives, even when they clock out. Amongst Yakuza and Japanese criminals, The reverence of authority manifests in the Oyabun-Kobun relationship, where the Oyabun is often the oldest and most respected member of the gang. Director Kinji Fukusaku's experience directing several Yakuza films is apparent in Battle Royale, not only through its immense violence, but also the theme of authority prominent in both. Seniority is power within the Japanese crime world, and those who do not respect the hierarchy are severely punished. Subordination is not tolerated, a sentiment which Quintano exemplifies as he views his cruel treatment of the children as justified, given their lack of respect. In Japanese society, those with power, whether that be in the form of seniority, wealth, or age, are practically immune from critique or repercussions. Their position is taken as a justification for their place of authority. This power is arbitrary in the movie, where students are randomly assigned weapons. Those lucky enough to receive a gun or a sword are practically invincible to those who get stuck with a fan or a pot lid. The extreme imbalance between the power of the kids is a mirror of the vast divisions of Japanese society. Those at the top hold a disproportionate amount of authority over those below them.
Everything litty, I love when it's hot. Turned to the city, I broke out the notch. Got some more millies, that keep me a knot. I created history, it made me a lot. He tried to diss me and it don't false. We call them chopsticks cause they gonna chop. Took her out of filers cause her pussy pop. I run it like Nike, we got it on lock. Cardiac eye, I'm the boss man in a suit with no tie. I can't be sober, I gotta stay.